All right, we are now live. As everyone is trickling in, I want to thank you for joining Pan-Abode Cedar Homes from West Coast Forest to your family legacy on the exhibitor presentation stage. We'll begin in about 1 minute. Before we start, I do have some housekeeping notes. So first off, I want everyone to find their chat box. This is where you will type to me, the session moderator. Please use this for any tech support issues. We will use the Q&A box for questions at the end of the session. These questions are for our speaker. This can be found at the bottom middle of your screen. You should see an icon that says Q&A. Once you click on that Q&A box, it will appear to your right. Please do not use the Q&A box for any technical issues. Reserve that just for questions. Now I'd like to introduce you to Kelly Marcineau.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone out here in across Canada as part of the virtual Cottage Life Show this weekend. Normally we'd be out in either Toronto or Edmonton or Alberta to meet up with you. So glad to actually be able to connect with people in their homes and during the pandemic times here. So as she mentioned, my name is Kelly Marcineau. I'm with Pan-Abode International. I'm also a board member with the BC Log and Timber Building Industry Association. So definitely sort of have a wide experience on a range of different types of log structures. And I've helped build a Pan-Abode as well. So I've been hands-on and got that there as well. Perfect. Okay, so learning objectives we're just going to cover is Pan-Abode International. So how we go from our Western red cedar trees through our different logs, and then the structure being manufactured in Canada, and then how easy it is to assemble all over the place. And that ease of assembly is definitely one of the reasons why people talk about Pan-Abode being a family legacy, because the experience of the family being able to actually assemble and put it together themselves. So just a little bit about our building system. So we are a machine milled or machine profiled log, 4x6. And we do have a double tongue and groove joinery with it. And then a variety of different things that you can do with the roof system. Obviously, our most classic Pan-Abode will be the open beam ceiling that's vaulted with a cedar decking finish. But certainly other options available that we can do. Within our design services, we also have the structural engineering and the energy efficiency modeling, required in many places across Canada, but we also see it as best practice there too. And then we include all the materials to the lockup stage of construction, plus a fair bit of trim and interior materials such as doors, closet doors, and hardware. So when you say grown and harvested in BC, that's where it is. So Western red cedar is really only grows here on the west coast of North America, mostly into British Columbia and a little bit into Washington and Oregon. And it's one of the reasons why Western red cedar is called the Queen of Woods is because it has that natural rot, mildew, and insect resistance. And that's due to the challenging environmental conditions that it has evolved in. And this includes really wet, you've heard of the wet West Coast, that's where these trees are growing in. So that, just through that, they're naturally rot and mildew and insect resistant. A really good example that often people sort of connect to is with totem poles. So totem poles are only in the Pacific Northwest, and are with First Nations Indigenous people, they were being able to cut down the tree, debark it, carve it, and be able to put it right into the dirt and the mud and have it stand. Most other types of tree species would actually end up decaying and degrading over a number of decades, when cedar actually lasts an extended period of time. So you can imagine when it's actually protected in a home structure where we have proper roof and soffits overhanging it, and then a stain application, how much longer it's going to last as well. So talking about Western red cedar, I think the other one thing to highlight here is about the warmth of it. So often we get the question about R values. I would, we could definitely talk about that, and especially for building permit applications, that's usually the question. But a big thing with all log structures is that thermal mass effect and that warmth that you get through something called a K value. And so that's why people often talk about the cottage or the Pan-Abode cabin that they had feels warmer because of that experience that you have in it. Yeah, so I see just here in the Q&A specific question, what is the R value? So Western Red Cedar is 1.55 R per inch. But then with our 4-inch log, we have an effective value of an R20 once you take into a number of other factors there. So another reason, just sort of touching on the environmental aspect, is that low carbon footprint that not just Pan-Abode, but many log and wood structures would have. So going through sort of that from that raw materials, we're actually sequestering carbon in the forest, and then that long life of the structure. Then carbon is emitted through all the different processing stages, from harvesting, transport, manufacturing. Again, transport, you're going to have less of it because it's prefabricated. So you're having less materials having to go from the manufacturing over to the construction site. And then eventually deconstruction, which is something that we're actually, getting more and more projects with Pan-Abode, is how you take it apart, how you move it, how you reassemble it, how you can reuse the logs and the materials. And then you also have in the operating. So, what's that carbon footprint during the operation of the structure? Heating, cooling, ventilation, lighting, and other electrical uses that you may have. So so we talked about, we have our cedar. We buy it as a 4x6 rough cut, which you can see over here on the left. And then we air dry it. So we actually, in our facility, we let the logs naturally dry. It takes many months to do that rather than a kiln dried. But we get a better quality of knot, as well as less cracking and checking this way. And then we actually will take the time to regrade our wood before we send it out for profiling, in case there's any pieces that did have a crack, or maybe we could see some heart center in it, pulling those out. And so you get just the best of our graded going into your homes and cottages. So I'm going to take a pause here from talking sort of about the wood, because now that we have it in these, rough cut pieces that are this 4x6 dried, now we actually have to put it into a custom design. And so with that custom design, because it's prefabricated, we spend a fair bit more time up front, where we will do that design work. For Pan-Abode, we actually do unlimited customization, and we'll spend that time getting it right for you, because relatively easy for us to make those changes on the computer. Much more challenging once we're in manufacturing or once you're on the job site. So it does obviously behoove you and us to get it right up front. Also, things we can do is the visualization of it. Being able to walk through different family members, other people that may be involved in your project, as well as meeting any local bylaws, building codes. And, we are seeing, various community requirements, such as material or color choices that you have as well. And then depending on what's required for energy modeling, so that again goes back, asking about insulation values as well. So with energy modeling, we can tell what is kind of required in your area based on your climate, as well as what performance level you're looking for. So with the remote build projects, so once we've done that custom design, one of the other things that we can assist with is logistics. So we do a lot of projects that are islands, remote access, sometimes even walk-in only sites. And, Pan-Abode, each individual log, rather than being a large panel system, which requires heavy equipment or crane, we have individual pieces that you're able to put together. And so it's much lighter. It is something that you can have a couple people, work on. Your heaviest items are going to be these overhead beams. This structure here, as you can see, it's just a handful of them that you would require a couple of people, some ladders to do that work on. So again, sort of helping with the remote access. All of our packages are labeled, and all of those individual logs are even labeled as well. So now we have your custom design. So we'll hop back into manufacturing here. So we have those 4x6 timbers. Now we are going to send them for machine milling, and that's going to give us that distinct Pan-Abode profile, as well as that double tongue and groove that we have. So we do precision manufacturing, high quality control we're able to do. And so we know that it's all going to fit together on site. And then let's step into actually our factory tour. This is a new video that we've just released, and this will actually give you sort of an inside view of what actually happens in that manufacturing process with that specific customer's home that we have. So if you could play the video for me, please.
Welcome to Pan-Abode International's world-famous manufacturing facility in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. I'm going to bring you on a tour today to show you our beautiful wood, our manufacturing, and talk a little bit about what makes Pan-Abode so special. So I'm here to show you our beautiful Western Red Cedar, and that's part of what makes our Western Red Cedar log home. We start with a 4x6 rough cut. We're looking for free of heart center. We're looking for select tight knots. We're also looking for the overall beauty of the wood. So the grain pattern, the knots, the different colors and hues that you end up having it. And here you can also see that profile of the log that we had. So it has a slight curve to it, that lovely double tongue and groove system. These 4x6 timbers is what the beginning of a Pan-Abode home looks like. We air dry all of our logs. We've originally done it for a quality issue. Now we see it very much as lowering our ecological footprint on building our solid cedar homes. So here is a piece of one of our logs. It's been custom cut. Now it's just waiting to be notched. And as you can see, it's individually labeled to make it easy to assemble once you're on site. And you can see our wonderful profile here with precision cut with a slight curve to it, the double tongue and groove system. And so there's a room for a gasket there, and it gives a nice tight fit when you're on the building, and it helps the longevity of the structure and really part of being a legacy that you have with your cedar home. So the outside, the face that's going to be exterior facing, is critically important to have the best knot quality that we can have. And so that's something that our team will look at and make the decision of, is it going to be an interior, exterior, is it going to be facing out, in? All those kind of decisions are really part of the art of turning a 4x6 timber into a Pan-Abode cedar home. So this precision piece of equipment is our trim saw. So now we've taken our graded logs and we'll place it on here and get it right down to the millimeter of where it needs to be cut for the eventual home that it's going to be in. This piece of machinery is where we do our 90-degree notches. Using custom cutting, we get it a precise fit, and we also take attention to detail to do the little bit of curve profile to it, so when it's up against the profile of the next log, it gives it a nice tight fit. Over here, this is our gable saw. This is where we manufacture our gables. We start with a series of Pan-Abode logs that have been already custom cut. And then what we'll do is we'll mark them out by hand, and then we'll use lasers to actually do a custom cut throughout the gable. And over here you can see a finished gable. It has a nice clean cut all the way down to it. And so it makes it nice and easy when they're on the build site to be able to put it into place and no additional cutting is required. So we've talked a little bit about the art that goes into the Pan-Abode structures. And now we'll talk a little bit about the science. This is called a heart center of a log, and we actually will exclude that from our home. We always look for a free of heart center. The reason for this is the way that it dries. Something that is round, shaped like this with the heart center is going to shrink about 8% down, and so you'll get these checks will occur in it. With Pan-Abode, we free of heart center, so instead of drying like this, our logs will dry like this. And so it's going to only shrink usually vertically about 4% down. And most of that shrinkage, about 3/4 of it, is actually done in our manufacturing facility as we air dry.
I hope you enjoyed the tour of the Pan-Abode factory, and we look forward to helping you build your dream cedar home. Pan-Abode, building memories since 1948.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm just trying to bring up screen again. We had this yesterday as well. It just goes blank. That's okay. So next, I'll just kind of talk here as we go. So the next thing I was going to talk about is assembly. And so assembly is actually now, how do we all put it together here for us? And so the assembly, we have our clients end up using, either as an owner builder, working with one of our local representatives, or through a licensed contractor. So part of it depends on what you're wanting to do with the project. And then the other part is a matter of, who's available in your area. And we can always, often do referrals to builders that may have used our Pan-Abode system before with it. So a few different ways that you can approach that. I think you probably can't still see my slides yet, but it looks like they are trying to load. Yeah, so now I'd be showing you a picture of the, let's see here, of our interlocking build system, showing that we will actually cut it. There'll be openings already pre-cut for windows and doors. And the interlocking system, so then, and there how our stub ends will connect together. So once it's actually one stacked on top of the other, it makes it quite challenging for it to actually to be able to come apart. And then a few other different components that I think are quite key to Pan-Abode. Being able to okay, it has loaded now. Okay, awesome. I'm glad you can see this. So you should be able to see a line drawing of a house right now of a Pan-Abode. And so there is going to be cedar decking coming across. So that's why you get that finish as well as your structural and your insulation all in one. So that's what goes up quite rapidly, and there's a lot less steps involved, which makes it go much quicker for you. Okay, so let's just, now we're visiting a build site. So once we've shipped a site, here is an example here. They have sort of everything sorted out once it arrives. And you can even notice down here is all those individual stickers that are labeled. So this is why people often talk about that. We're even better than IKEA because all the pieces are actually labeled so you know where they go. So coming in, so when materials from us arrive, it'll start with your subfloor. So on a prepared foundation that you already have, very critical that it is level and squared, making sure that, it makes it very easy for the next layer to go on top of it. Subfloor, and then you start to stack the logs. So you can see in this case how, all those openings for windows and doors are. There's a 3-step process that we have for our gasketing. So in between the two tongues, you're going to have a log home tape that'll be stripped down. We provide all of this material in the kit. Then we also have our notch pads that'll be at all of the log notches. So once it comes down again, it compresses and it gives it, an extra bit of gasketing in there. And then on this one here, you can see the caulking. We provide clear caulking, but it'll be white until dry. So you can actually see where you need to just do a little bit of cleaning off there. And I know when I was assembling a Pan-Abode, it was good feedback for me when I was caulking, going like, oh, you don't actually need that much. Just a nice, thin bead just on the outside there with it, and then around on the stub ends. Okay, as you can see, sort of coming up there, our typical height, will be 8 feet on the eaves. Some of our contemporary designs, slope back a little bit further. We can always go higher as well. The Pan-Abode that is behind me here, they actually raised and added 2 extra courses of logs just to give it even that much higher height. And in this home, they did a truss roof. So that's another style of roof that we have available, either with scissor truss, with a slight vault, or a flat truss ceiling that you have. Part of it depends on equipment availability and cost for you. And then so now once you have it assembled, you will do your own finishing on that. Some of our clients end up doing it as a multi-year project or put basic finishing, and some go all out with gourmet kitchens and spa bathrooms as well. So you've seen quite the range of Pan-Abodes that are out there. For regular care maintenance, yes, cedar can go silver or gray, and you can leave it to the elements. Though we do recommend at least putting a stain on the outside just to give it a little bit of protection for it. And then on the inside, doing a clear coat, in particular areas where there's, water, grease, so kitchens, bathrooms, even places that our hair or our hands touch can over the years leave, start to leave oils and have a bit of darkening there. And so you can always, do just some sanding and bringing it back, but there is some ways to maintain at least the appearance of the logs. A lot of time we have heard this many times about less dust and less debris collects on Pan-Abode logs because we have that really sleek profile coming down. And then something, especially for people that have seen Pan-Abodes over the years, we do have now a self-tightening through bolt system. So with springs at the bottom of it. So instead of every month having to go and, adjust your screws and wing nuts that are on them as the logs sort of shrink, and then over even within the year, if you have one season that's much more humid than the other, you can get a bit of that shrinking and swelling. The whole home and the whole Pan-Abode is designed to be able to move. That's often why they talk about being really good log homes in earthquakes. Also really good, if there's been a flood, you're able to actually dry the log home out rather than have the waste of, drywall and other, materials that need to be taken out. And then the other one is the trees falling on. So, obviously Pan-Abode being in a lot of remote locations, this is probably happens more often than to other homes, but the brunt of those solid logs is able to take quite a lot. So often it's, the roof or some of the other materials that might be damaged, but, so that whole sort of care, maintenance, and, durability of the structure is again part of that legacy that Pan-Abode has for you and your family. And then the windows, doors, roof, foundation, very similar to other styles of buildings and their care and maintenance. And then for windows, doors, and roof that are provided by Pan-Abode, there's different warranties depending on which provider you ended up going with. So I've had throughout here a number of links that you're able to click on. So I will be able to share the slide deck afterwards. So if any resources that you're wanting to go through. And now I'll just open it up to questions. I see we have a few here on the Q&A, so I'll just start with those. But yeah, feel free to drop more in, and I'm happy to stay and answer them here. Okay, so first one, was about R value. So yeah, I believe I answered that one earlier. Then we had, we are an unassumed row. What is the smallest truck size that can be used to deliver your building's components to a site? So pretty small. So sometimes what we see customers do is actually have a loading site that they might take, we'll ship it out from British Columbia here, send it out, depending on, say like a 600 square foot kit to the lockup stage of construction. It's probably on a 53-foot flat deck if we're trying to be just, efficient in sending it on, just the one truck. So you take it to site, and then you would end up breaking out into smaller packages. We can size the individual loads down, we'll do it down to 2,000 pounds without any additional packing charges. If you want even smaller loads than that, there may be like additional packing fees and crating charges depending on what components are involved. So that's one way to do it. And then the other thing we do get people to hand carry down, especially the last 100 or 200 meters to site. And, one of these big beams, you're looking at probably a couple hundred, maybe 300-400 pounds. And so being able to have a few people to carry it. And then other things helpful if you have some sort of, small equipment on site to picking up loads and moving them. Otherwise, it's just a lot of hand carrying back and forth. So, if you've got lots of helpers, that can definitely go a long way. Okay, so next one here. Are we in Muskoka too? Yes, we are. So we have, for Pan-Abode, we manufacture in British Columbia, and we actually ship all over Canada, all over the world. And we do actually have a local representative in the Muskoka region in Gravenhurst. They're called Cedar Coast Homes, and they're actually at this Cottage Life Show. So if you're wanting to chat with them, happy to put you in touch with them out there. Okay, next question. Do you provide builds in Ontario, and do you offer affordable small off-grid cottage builds? So yes, definitely throughout Ontario. We actually have, I just mentioned about our representative in Gravenhurst. We have another one in Orangeville, and they service sort of southwestern Ontario. So yeah, just let us know where, and we can connect you to the right group. And And then, yeah, so small for sure. We even have bunkie packages at 108 square feet. One of the things Pan-Abode does really well is custom. So we can make it, as big as or as small as that you want. And then off-grid, we see a lot of people using our packages for off-grid, especially because it does have that thermal mass. So you're not having to constantly, heat, cool, sort of back and forth. A lot of people also like it because it is a natural building material. It kind of blends in with nature. And you can have a much more of that outdoor indoor field. And then for affordable, I would just say we are very much part of the building sector. So we've experienced the same increases in building materials as other cottages, cabins, and home builders have. And so we've kind of gone up with that. And normally we're in the same ballpark as a custom framed home. The big difference would be is if you're an owner builder, you can actually have a significant cost savings by taking on that project yourself. And we have about a third to sometimes even closer to half of our clients go that route. So that's definitely one way to make it more affordable. Next question here about is caulking necessary? Debatable maybe. A lot of people don't do the caulking or used to. We find it is just that little bit of extra protection for the air and the water filtration. And it's not very much caulking. We actually just do a thin bead of caulking on the outside tongue. And then there'll be a little bit of caulking in and around where the stub ends are. So we do recommend it, and we actually supply it in your kit. So you'll receive a number of tubes of caulking and then one or multiple caulking guns, depending on the size of the structure, are included as well. And then we also include all that gasketing, which is the log home tape, and then the quarter notch pads. Okay, next question there is, do we have a particular stain that we recommend? There's lots of different options out there. Our preferred stain supplier right now is Timber Pro Coatings. But certainly, probably only maybe half of people get their stain from us, and the rest will have somebody local that they may be using. And then sometimes people hire a company to come in and do the staining for them with it. Okay, next question is, how do you recommend cleaning the inside of an older Pan-Abode? Any products to avoid? So I would recommend talking to somebody like Timber Pro Coatings or Real Cedar. They would be really, they're the experts on how to actually, do that, especially for older structures. It may be unknown as to what the product was that was put on there. So I know, whether it's acrylic versus oil versus latex versus varnish, there's different things that you're going to do to remove that before you go in and apply a stain. As for products to avoid, we generally say is not to put anything that's permeable. So you're not going to put like a thick paint over top of it because you actually want the logs to be able to breathe. They are vapor permeable, and that's a good thing. That's what you want in the structure, so it'll help to regulate humidity. But as soon as you're putting in that, if you put 2 layers of thick paint on it, you may not be able to get that. And sometimes, especially old varnish, sometimes people would say that it was actually rotting in behind because it just sealed in that moisture pressed against that wood for extended periods of time. Okay, are we able to supply single groove repair pieces? So what we have as a repair material is our cedar siding, and it's a 1-inch thick. And so it's cosmetic. So it's a siding that you would put over top, but it keeps that same Pan-Abode profile. And it does a pretty good job of being able to cover that up. We often use that for renovations, sometimes additions that are smaller with it. Is there cedar eaves troughs available? We do not do cedar eaves troughs anymore. Gutters and eaves troughs will be provided separately. There may be still suppliers out there, but it's not something that Pan-Abode does anymore. Okay, question about electrical. So electrical is 2 ways you can do it. One is actually doing it through the walls of the logs. And you'll do it actually as you're assembling it. So you'll do a couple courses of logs, and then you'll start to do drill downs through the logs where you're going to pull up the wires. And then if it's a switch that's close to a doorway, you can actually go sideways through the log at the keyway that's open there. So I had a question. Yeah. Okay. So somebody's asking for a ballpark on a price. So if you wanted to leave, it actually says anonymous attendee. So if you wanted to email me or drop it by our booth, we can kind of go through, what that may look like. And then tell me more about spring corner bolts. So what we have is, they're called through bolts. So they will be at the top, coming from your roof all the way down through a stack of the logs at a corner. And then you'll see a bolt that'll be coming out through the bottom. It's all custom hardware that we provided as part of your kit. And then previously, like older Pan-Abodes, there would have actually been nuts and wing nuts that you would have been, screwing up or down to accommodate the plate that was keeping, the bottom log there, everything all tight. Now we have a spring mechanism in there, so it auto tightens for you instead of you having to go and open it and close it. So that's, just something that we have there that makes it just a little bit easier for ongoing maintenance.
Sorry, Kelly, we're just over time.
Okay. I did not get to all the questions, so I will follow up then, I guess, with them individually.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to head over to the Pan-Abode booth, and then you can connect with Kelly and her team there. So yes, thank you, Kelly, for your session. Again, I just wanted to remind everybody to head over to the exhibitor booth so you can see all the products and promotions that they have to offer. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day here at the virtual Cottage Life and Outdoor Living Show.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.